Gosh, I mentioned, and I know this is on your list of questions, that humor and eccentricity is sort of, I think, a through line, and so is thinking about the community that I'm writing for. Even when I think back to the music that I was writing in undergrad, I was not writing because I was commissioned to write the music. I was writing because I was writing for friends, and maybe they would be able to pay me something. But I was, and that's business wise, that is not a responsible thing to do. But it sure was fun. So community, I think, is certainly something that has become more. I think it's always been there for me, but it's become more prevalent because I shake hands with and speak with the community that I'm writing for on a daily basis. I mean, my social life is wrapped up in this church,
Right.
right? When I am writing things for them to sing, I know when there have been births and weddings and deaths and or underemployment or sickness, and those are all things that go into melody making, and even this this is maybe not quite true, but I could strive for these standards. If there's a service that I know, oh, these group of people will definitely be there, and these other folks are too busy, they won't come. And I know that the vocal range of this first group, they're okay singing really high. I will write something that allows them to, exercise that joy of singing high, where the other folks who won't be here because they're too busy, they couldn't get up there. Now that's very, that's maybe a little conceited. I don't know how possible that really is, but the idea of thinking deeply about the people that you're writing for, I think is yeah, has just been like amped up the whole time I've been here. But the idea of me coming up for water, the only reason I think I feel underwater is because I've been writing for the same community and not much else for 4 years. I have had a handful of commissions, which maybe that is me sneaking a breath here
Yeah,
and there.
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I have been, the music that I've been creating has predominantly been for the benefit of this congregation. And what was the other thing that I was thinking of? Humor, and eccentricity. I mean, the whole bell thing with the melodica, I think, kind of speaks for itself as far as eccentricity is concerned, or using an accordion on a Palm Sunday procession around the church. And I think my personality is. I mean, I like to pun. I love to get people to roll their eyes because my jokes are so dry and terrible. And I do it enough that I really think of it as part of my personality, however uninteresting that might be to some people. And so doing things like, we mentioned Picardy thirds at the beginning of this, throwing in a Picardy third where you really don't expect it, I think of as being kind of humorous, or using funny instrumentation. Like, there was a piece that I wrote before I started writing all this music for church. It mentioned Dragonfly a couple times, and I have I think it's the cellist switch from cello to kazoo, and make Dragonfly noises. Of course. Oh my gosh, so funny. And I think there's something about that eccentricity and lightheartedness and humor that maybe it's surface level, and that's fine. But I think it is inviting and gets people to notice and gets them interested. And if that can be a doorway to a deeper connection with my music or with someone else's, if that just gets them interested, then I think that's a success, and that is worth some broad strokes and some punny material. I am okay. I am okay with that.
Yeah. Hearing your example of the kazoo, I mean, it kind of the first thing I thought of was Ligoti's Violin Concerto, which is one of my favorite pieces of all time.
Sure.
And one of the movements, it's either the second or the third movement, where all the woodwind players in the orchestra play ocarinas, and it's like this very kind of foreboding atmosphere. Like, it's like there's like a darkness to it, but then it's like these little lighthearted instruments that sound like toys. It's like, I mean, it's like, you're right, it's like there's a humor, it's a little eccentric. um but but yeah, it's interesting. And then another example that came to mind, one of my favorite bands is Japanese Breakfast, and she just came out with a new album within the past month, I believe. and the opening track has this like little interlude. I guess it's the bridge of the song, but it's like all the melodies played on like recorders. It's like a recorder choir in the middle of this like rock band. It's like so good. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm interested in hearing more about, like, I mean, you mentioned melodica, accordion, kazoo. I mean, it's like, yeah, these are funny little things, but it doesn't make your music less serious. Like it's like it just makes it better, I think.
I, I don't know, and I don't really know if it's for me to know, at least about my own music.
Sure.
I'm okay leaving that up to other people to decide. But it is fun, and oh my gosh, Tyler, if we're not having fun while we're doing this, what are we doing? I do think it's been beneficial to me. That there's a piece that I wrote for organ, of course. That the only reason I wrote this is because I had played another piece that was very specific and called for a piece of wood cut to 18 inches and wrapped in felt. David N. Johnson has this piece, which, for anyone who knows that name, he writes some really beautiful, some really useful in the box music for organ. And so to what to see this piece for board and organ by David N. Johnson was such a funny coincidence. And it's a great little hymn tune setting. But I went to Lowe's or Home Depot, whatever it was. I got the wood, I wrapped it in felt, and I played the piece. And I thought, well, that was fun. But now I'm kind of, what do I do with this piece of wood? And so I wrote a piece that made use of it, because and I don't know. I think that one is kind of funny too. The piece that David N. Johnson wrote is "Come Thou Long Expected Jesus" to the Jefferson tune, if that means anything to anyone who's listening to this. But the piece that I wrote is the first movement in my amalgam suite called Tambour. It's called Tambour because it's a drum. I put the board on the organ manuals and I drum on different parts of it. And the way that it sort of bounces, it's different than just drumming on the keyboard directly, because the way that it bounces around sort of creates this fun texture that you don't get otherwise. And it doesn't seem to matter much if the keyboard is mechanical or electropneumatic, or even if it's a purely digital organ.
Like it just works.
It just works. I still get that fun rocking back and forth with the wood. I have a friend who liked this idea so much when I was living in Michigan that they did the same thing with they made their own boards, and they wrote their own piece that used these boards. And I tried my little tambour thing, and it worked on those boards too. So anyway, it's goofy, but I think it's fun. I don't know if this is an inflated thought, but I do wonder, when I applied for the job that I have now, I do wonder if I included a video of that performance. I do wonder if that helped set me apart a little bit, because I guarantee that no one else who applied had a video of them taking a piece of wood, putting it on an organ, and drumming all over it. At the very least, it maybe put me in a different category, which maybe worked to my advantage. I think eccentricity is valuable. Humor is valuable.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Kline, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts, or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.